welcome Emma and Brenda to this conversation about your experience of the Postgraduate Certificate in Coaching Psychology. It's a real pleasure to see you both, literally a year after the program ended for you. And thank you for sharing your experience of your learning and what happened next for future and potential students. So, I'd like to begin just by asking you both, what drew you to the programme at Birkbeck?
I just say it's a pleasure to be here, first of all. Thank you for inviting us. But yes, so what drew us to it?
I think it started off with deciding to make a sort of a life change at work, and then starting with Google. Where can I go? You know, having an idea that maybe coaching was something I wanted to explore. And of course, you go onto the internet and there are so many things that come up. And I was drawn initially to Birkbeck because of its reputation as a university, as part of the University of London, and also because of its reputation for having mature students, looking after mature students and people who work full time. So straight away, for me, that gave it a sort of a background, a foundation of something I felt very secure in. So that first drew me was the name, Birkbeck. And then after that, I obviously looked into the course, and that's perhaps where Emma can pick up there.
Yeah, I mean, Brenda sent it on to me because we were both having the same thought. And I was doing internal coaching and mentoring in my career already. And I'd also had quite a lot of coaching. So I probably had a bit more experience of coaching. So kind of knew which bits I wanted to find out more about. And I think from that course, there were two parts. One was the flexibility for somebody who was working full time and the way that the course was structured and that we could do it. And obviously pre-COVID, the fact that we could be together. And then really the content and that mixture of practical and skills and case study approach and just the kind of the depth of it. So it had the rigor and the theory, but also the practical applications was what really appealed to me.
It might be helpful for people sort of looking at this film to actually know what your careers are and, you know, what place you were in when you started the program.
Okay, well, I've been a teacher for 22 years. So I've sort of a middle management. I'd reached middle management, sort of had dreams of being at a certain level and had reached a certain level and then realized it wasn't quite what I'd hoped or thought it was going to be. So having achieved my dream, if you will, it wasn't actually making me happy. So I realized that, you know, in my 50s, I was going to have to make some sort of a life change. And that's when I started looking around for things which perhaps I could transfer my skills to. And that's where the idea of coaching came about for me.
I think for me, so my background is, at some points it seems quite antithetic to coaching, but actually it's not at all. So I was an air traffic controller for a lot of my career. My background is in aviation. So I worked in this very high pressured perceived job, which it is, for a long time, and then went into leadership. But one thing that I had done throughout my career was always be really interested in human factors and why we make decisions the way we do. So working in public safety and safety critical roles, it was like, what is it that makes us as people behave the way we do, make the decisions the way we do, perform the way we do under stress, and that kind of thing. So I always had that interest and that thread in psychology and human factors. And when I started working as a senior leader in the aviation industry in latter years, I got much more interested in the development of people and, again, how we perform in these states of crises that we keep finding ourselves in. So I think it's something like that. It's that human thread and human decision making that really drew me into, right, why do we make the life choices that we do as well as the critical choices that we do?
So ostensibly very different careers, but at the heart, this care and interest in people management, in leadership, and the things that might motivate people. 1 year on, can you reflect on your experience of the course?
Yes, well, yeah, do you know, it's one of those things that so much has changed, obviously, because COVID hit during the beginning of the course. So I think when we started the course, for me, it did feel very instantly that we were immersed in something quite special. And part of that was around the training pedagogy and the working in groups and coaching from day one, which was also quite terrifying, wasn't it? I mean, I think you found it quite scary in a sense. And it was this sort of feeling of like little groups of families, and the way that everyone was so open and sharing their vulnerabilities and knowledge and experience, because it's very easy to think, oh God, they all know much more than me, and I'm not really a coach, and I've done a bit of this, and I think you felt that, didn't you?
I think, yeah, I remember on the first day, I was terrified. I was thinking, I'm the only person who doesn't know anything, and everybody else knows loads about coaching, or they've been coached, and I'm going to be the worst person in the class, which for me as a teacher was a difficult thing to comprehend. But very quickly that sort of all melted away because people were so open. I love the fact that every week we did some coaching. As part of it, we had to be coached as well, and learning by virtue of that. And it, without sounding too evangelical, it actually was for me life-changing. By virtue of the fact I am, no longer going to be a teacher from the end of this year, and completely changed my life as a direct result of the course.
And equally for me, in that, halfway through the course, I actually did the course to support my internal coaching in the workplace. But as I became more immersed in it, I thought, no, this is what I want to do. This is what has so much value. This is actually making a difference, really making a difference. So rather than coaching within my construct, within aviation, and doing that as part of the role, it's like, this is what I want to bring to people, and bring to people in different contexts. And since then, that's what I have done. I've walked away from my job, and we set up our own coaching business from the back of it.
That's wonderful. I mean, it's certainly sort of watching you both emerge with your own specific coaching styles and seeing you flourishing is a really wonderful thing to witness. But we haven't specifically named the fact that you were sisters. We talked about the fact that, familial relationships emerge from the sort of coaching course. But I wonder whether you could just reflect on what it was like going through the program as siblings.
I think it was nice for me to have that support, as Emma and I were both at sort of turning points potentially in our careers when we were looking for a course, and so we found something we both wanted to do, but it didn't crystallize into anything until we were sort of in it really properly. We didn't tell people at first. I don't really know why we didn't make a thing of it, but then it sort of came out, and it wasn't a big deal. I didn't feel. I don't know, Emma.
No, I mean, it wasn't. We're very independent. We have very different lives. We have very different constructs. I'm married with 2 children and a dog. Brenda lives on her own. We have different careers, different, personal lives. And so it was lovely actually to be able to spend that much time together, to be honest, because we didn't often get that much opportunity. So obviously we knew we had the same ethos and values, I guess. But it was lovely just having a trusted colleague sat next to you from day one. But we also found that very quickly within the groups that we worked with. And as you'll know, Susan, in some groups at the beginning, we didn't actually do any of the coaching practice together. So we formed those bonds and that familial thing with other people very quickly. And then we did come back to working in a group together at the end. But that was interesting to explore what were the impacts of that, because by then we started to learn this whole psychodynamic stance and what's going on underneath and what are we being influenced by. So it was really good to kind of be able to observe that about ourselves.
We're going to come back to your plans now, because I know you've set up a coaching business together and I want to hear a little bit more about that. But before we do, I wonder whether you could just share a little bit about how you felt the course embraced this balance of theory and practice.
I think that was the best part of it for me. I mean, I am a lifelong learner, I suppose, by virtue of being a teacher. And so I really was keen to get into the theory and the psychology of it. I found all that fascinating. And I was most wary, I suppose, of the practical bit. That was the bit that held the fear for me. But then every week I would really enjoy that, the way that we'd learn something and then practice it. And it gave so much confidence actually just trying it out, because I think, you can read about something as much as you like and talk about something, but until you're actually practicing doing it, that's when it really comes to life. So for me, that was really a positive part of the course, that we had both aspects going at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. And also the way the theory was delivered, so it was really rich. It was, it was lovely to have insight and people like yourself, Susan, and guest speakers giving their personal stories as well. There was a real openness about it. So it wasn't just a delivery of here's some theory, go away and do it. It was a real chance to understand what that meant and how people have used it in practice and how it may have come into anyone's personal stories. So I thought that was really valuable. So you could feel it. You were absorbing the theory, not just as a text, it was like as an experience. And then you just say, as Brenda says, you just got to have a go, and you might sort of think, oh my God, immediately we're doing something I've just learned and being filmed, and that's terrifying. But it wasn't. It just felt really safe and contained as well. So it was managed in a really sensitive way.
I think that is a really important thing, actually. There was that automatic safety, wasn't there? We did feel you could say anything without judgment. And people did. There were a lot of tears.
From day one.
Good tears. Yeah.
Certainly some very sort of deeply held feelings shared, and all sorts of experiences. But tell me now, what are you both doing? Tell me a bit about your current status in relation to coaching.
So we set up our business at the beginning of this year, 2021. I did leave my job last September, so I decided to make the decision to start branching into this full time. Brenda had to wait a bit longer because of school terms and notice periods and things like that. Just as a follow on from a lot of the thing is, when we came towards the end of the course, then having done the individual practice, working through the reflexive journal, so the piece that we had to submit, then meant having clients. So we then got on to, it was a great transition from coursework in our safe bubble to client work for a portfolio, to build a portfolio that you were not charging for, to thinking, right, now I'm doing this, now I'm going to take this and I'm going to own this and I'm going to start doing this. And then there was that transition into actually then getting clients, which has been all through word of mouth and reputation at this point. So we currently have our coaching business where we see clients very much in that more depth analysis type way of working, and looking for people really not in terms of getting from A to B, much as the course did teach us to do normative types of coaching. Obviously, we're both very drawn to much more around exploring what people's purpose and values are, and what makes them make the decisions they are, and working with people in more of a kind of soul guide way, but with all that credibility and expertise behind it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that we're now in a position where I'm going to be leaving my job in 4 weeks, so I can now devote myself full time to it. And we've sort of been doing it slowly, which I think has worked quite well for us, building up, a social media presence and websites and all that type of thing, getting there. But I feel really more and more confident about it all the time. I think there was a time, Susan, early on in the course when you mentioned something about there'll come a day when you say, I am a coach. And I think everyone in the class went, oh, no, I'm not a coach. I couldn't possibly. But by the end of the course, we were there. And I think we say it with confidence.
Yeah.
Now,
and it's also something that you did say as well, Susan, about, what we're bringing to ourselves as coaching, because we would all have our, oh my God, can I say this? Am I, the imposter syndrome that everybody has around everything, and you very rightly said, but what we're bringing to it is our decades of experience and the leadership and the understanding and the work that we've done with people. Is, you could have been a coach for a longer time, but with less life experience and not have the same ability to understand and connect. And so it's grown from there, and the feedback has been wonderful. We both work outdoors as well as indoors, so hence we're sitting outdoors now. And we do walk and talk coaching and explore things with people outside as well as within a indoor or Zoom setting, which is a wonderful way to work actually. And we're ever evolving. We had a website meeting this morning about relooking at our wording and our branding and offerings, etc. So we're very much in the journey.
Very exciting.
The future does sound really exciting, and I'm thrilled for you both that the world is going to have your talent and skills, and you're going to continue with the coaching practice. Just perhaps a final question. Would you recommend the program to somebody who's looking to develop their coaching practice or to find out more about coaching in general?
100%.
Definitely. I mean, it literally has changed my life. So it's, that's the only way I can put it. I really enjoyed it. Met some people I think we'll be in contact with, lifelong contacts.
Yeah.
And as I say, it's made a huge change in my life, and it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
And also, I think the fact that it's you mentioned just then people who are either interested in finding out more about coaching or looking to develop their practice. And I think that's a really key point, because when we went in there, some people had never coached before, had never had didn't have any experience of it. Some people had been coaching for years or were in HR roles that had a lot of demonstrable experience. And the course manages to enhance that for everybody, whichever level you are at, because it's just the different aspects of looking at it. So we could all learn together, even though we had such different experience bases. So yeah, I mean, it's been absolutely wonderful, and it's given us the skills and the knowledge and the confidence to do this as a business. And the feedback we've had is wonderful, and it's about making that difference. So thank you.
Well, it's hugely uplifting to talk to you both, and a real pleasure. So thank you for spending time on this beautiful day to tell us a bit about your experience and about your plans. And I really wish the business every success, and know that your clients will be in really safe hands. So thank you, Emma and Brenda.
Well, thank you. We couldn't have done it without you.
No.